And time now for the exchange. U.S. Senator Chris Coons, a Democrat from the state of Delaware, also wrapped up a trip to the continent recently. He had stops in South Africa, Morocco, Botswana and Zambia. I talked with him about his visit, the recent elections in Nigeria, of course, and the many humanitarian crises plaguing the continent. Senator Coons, thank you so much for joining us. As you know, it's been almost a week since the Nigerian elections. Bola Tinubu has now been declared the winner, but there has been so much concern about fraud, about irregularities, about vote rigging in these elections. How concerned is the United States about the validity of these results in Nigeria?
Well, first, I'll congratulate the Nigerian people and President-elect Tinubu. It is my hope that any concerns, any protests about the legitimacy of the election will be brought forward through appropriate processes, through the courts, through the Election Commission, rather than through violence. And there are widespread concerns about the legitimacy of the Nigerian election. There was very high participation. It was closely contested, as has been the case here in the United States, as well as in countries across Africa in recent years. Elections that are very closely contested have ended up in moments of violence, and I think it's important that we emphasize the United States' commitment to free and fair elections and to legal processes for elevating any concerns that the citizens of Nigeria might have.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about your recent trip to Southern Africa. Part of it was designed to mark 20 years since the launch of PEPFAR, that's the US's AIDS initiative on the continent, launched by George Bush in 2003. $100 billion spent worldwide, 25 million lives saved. Just walk us through what you think, at least since 2003, has been achieved specifically in Africa when it comes to battling AIDS, HIV. And then in terms of how the US's healthcare goals on the continent are evolving, what would you say to that?
Well, the main countries that we visited in Southern Africa were Zambia, South Africa, and Botswana. And the numbers, as you just said, are stunning. A 20-year increase in life expectancy in Zambia, for example, in the 20 years since we began investing heavily in PEPFAR. In countries like South Africa, where the AIDS pandemic was a death sentence, and where in the late 90s, in the first years of this century, millions of people were at risk of dying. In partnership with local nonprofits and national health services, American investment has really changed the trajectory, both of the HIV/AIDS pandemic and of public health. It's had some great secondary consequences. The testing labs that we have funded, the training for community healthcare workers, the strengthening of national health systems have also provided real benefits during the COVID-19 pandemic in West Africa, during the Ebola outbreak. So we've invested in public health in a way that has made a dramatic and life-saving difference, both for the 25 million lives that were saved through PEPFAR from HIV/AIDS, and in millions more that were saved from other public health conditions. I do think as we work to reauthorize PEPFAR in this Congress, that the American people can take a moment to be proud of what we've done in partnership with African countries and to redouble our efforts to ensure an AIDS-free generation on the continent of Africa by 2030.
And part of this trip involved you spending time in Niger as well. I want to talk about the Sahel because France, as you know, is sort of winding down its military presence in the Sahel, partly because it hasn't been as successful in fighting terrorism in that part of the world as it would have liked to, and also because anti-French sentiment on the continent is growing by the day. Are you concerned about what this will mean for security in the Sahel going forward?
I am. Niger is a great partner for the United States. They are hosting about 1,000 U.S. troops, and we are working with countries and communities across the Sahel to deliver better security for them, for their development, for their democracy, and for their future. In both Mali and Burkina Faso, Russian mercenaries, the Wagner Group, have been carrying out brutal attacks on civilian populations, have been extracting value from those countries, and have been interfering in their politics. The same is true in the Central African Republic and in Chad. And I'm concerned about what we're seeing in terms of the increase in terrorist attacks and the ways in which Wagner provides security to military governments that have taken power through coups I do think the United States has to work more closely with regional partners. We stopped in Cote d'Ivoire on our way back to the United States from Southern Africa and had a great briefing by our new ambassador there. There is real potential for us to work with countries across the coast of West Africa and across the Sahel, but we need to invest in development and diplomacy as well as defense.
And final question, South Africa, as you know, recently had, speaking of Russia, because you touched on Russia, South Africa recently had joint military drills with Russia. We know that Sergei Lavrov has visited the continent 3 times in recent months. He actually just got back from a trip to Mali in early February. Are you concerned about what this means for the sort of deepening security and defense ties between Russia and the continent of Africa?
I am. Look, during this war in Ukraine, it is hard for Americans to look at Russian conduct and to see how others don't join us in condemning it and in coming to the aid of the brave Ukrainians who are defending their sovereignty and trying to expel Russian invaders. I respect the long tradition in South Africa of non-alignment, but if South Africa is taking or takes actions to side with Russia in this conflict, that will have grave consequences for our relationship. As someone who has visited South Africa many times and has deep respect for and affection for the people of South Africa, our work together in PEPFAR, our trade work together through AGOA, it is my real hope that they will remain non-aligned. But it was concerning that there were naval exercises going on with Russia and China while our bipartisan delegation was there in South Africa. And I think the United States needs to be attentive across the continent to ways that Russian disinformation and Russian mercenary actions through the Wagner Group are influencing other African countries. We need to show up as well. I'm encouraged at how many very high-level members of the Biden administration have visited across the continent, including, as you just mentioned, the First Lady just this past week.
Senator Chris Coons, thank you so much.
Thank you.